Persians. Written by Aeschylus, translated by Mark Will. Narrated by Guy Bethel. Persians. Scene, Palace of Xerxes at Susa. Choral Ode 1. Enter chorus of Persian elders. Of the Persians, gone to the land of Hellas, these here are called the most faithful, the guardians by seniority of the wealth and the gold-rich thrones, whom himself Lord Xerxes, king, son of Darius, elected to oversee the territories. Yet as regards the return of the king and his gold-rich army, my soul, already an evil prophet, is much distressed within. For all Asiatic-born strength has gone, yelping after the young master, and neither messenger nor horseman returns to the capital of the Persians. Abandoning Susa and Ecbatana and the ancient wall of Kisia, they went forth, some on horses, some in ships, some on foot, presenting a formation of war. Such are Amistris and Artaphernes and Megabartes and Astaspes, commanders of Persians, kings subject to the great king. They push on, overseers of a massive army, archers and horsemen, fearful to see, terrible in battle, with steadfast determination of will. Artambares, too, the charioteer, and Massistres, and the bowman, good Imaios, and Pharandakes, and horse-driver Sostanes, and others the great and many-feeding Nile sent forth, Susiscanes, Egyptian-born Pegastagon, and the Archon of holy Memphis, great Arsames, and Ariamados, guardian of Aegean Thebes, and marsh-dwelling rowers of ships, terrible and countless in number. And there follows a throng of luxurious Lydians, and those who generally oppress the mainlanders, those whom Metragathes and brave Arctius, regal commanders, and gold-rich Sardis sent forth, riding in many chariots, in double and triple ranks, a fearful sight to behold. Those living near holy Tmolus also pledged to cast the yoke of slavery on Hellas. Mardon, Tharibis, thunderbolts of the spearhead, and the javelin-darting Mysians. Babylon, too, the gold-rich, sends a mixed host in a long line, some mounted upon ships, and some trusting in bow-drawn intention. The sword-bearing tribe of all Asia follows the dreadful pomp of the king. And the flower of the Persian land goes forth, the men for whom the entire Asiatic earth, teeming, groans with fierce regret, and fathers and their bedfellows, counting the days, tremble at the lengthening of time. And already has the city-destroying army of the king passed into the neighbouring land on the opposite shore, exchanging for a cable-bound raft the ferry of Atamantis Heli, casting a well-nailed roadway as a yoke on the neck of the sea. And the furious ruler of many-peopled Asia against the entire earth drives his brilliant flock in two divisions, on foot and from the sea, having put his trust in strong, rough generals, God-equal man of a gold-born race. And gazing darkly with his eyes, the look of a deadly dragon, with many hands and many ships, and racing his Syrian chariot, he urges against spear-famous men, bow-subduing Ares. And none is able, withstanding a great stream of warriors, to shut in with strong enclosures the invincible wave of the sea. Peerless are the army and people of the stout-hearted Persians. By the gods, Moira has ruled since the ancient time, and she decreed for the Persians the pursuit of tower-destroying wars, and the turmoil of fighting horsemen and the sacking of cities. And they learned, as the wide-open ocean turned to white foam with the furious wind, to look upon the sacred grove of the sea, trusting their finely wrought cables and their people-transporting machines. But the crafty deceit of deity, what mortal man will escape it? Who with swift foot overleaps it, fortunately springing up? For Ata kindly entices mortal man into her nets, from which it is not permitted that he may escape unharmed. Thus is my black-clad heart lacerated with fear, alas, for the Persian campaign, lest the polity learn that the great capital of Susa is empty of men, and the battlements of Kisia, echoing, will sing, alas, the women-filled crowd this word crying out. And there will be tearing of fine linen robes. For all the cavalry and the infantry, like a swarm of bees, have left the hive with the captain of the army, crossing the headland joined from both sides, jutting into the sea, common to either continent. And marriage beds, for want of husbands, are filled with tears. Each Persian woman, overly mournful with man-loving longing, having sent away her furious spear-armed consort, is left yoked alone. Episode 1. Chorus, Atossa, and Messenger. But come, Persians, standing on this ancient roof, let us propose some diligent and deeply considered thought, for the need has arrived, as to how fares Xerxes the king, son of Darius, of the same race by patronymic as us. Is it the drawing of the bow which prevails, or is it the might of the sharp spearhead which has conquered? Enter Atossa. But here, equal to the eyes of the gods, a light comes forth. Mother of the king, my queen, I bow upon my knees, and it is fitting that we, saluting her, address her with words. O lady most exalted of deep-zoned Persian women, the reverend mother of Xerxes, hail, wife of Darius. Consort of a god of the Persians, the mother of a god you are, unless the former spirit has now abandoned our army. For this reason precisely have I come here, leaving the gold-decked palace and the bedchamber common to Darius and myself. Care lacerates my heart too, and I will ask you your opinion, being in no way fearless myself, friends, lest great wealth, stirring up dust on the ground, trip with its foot the prosperity which Darius acquired, not without one of the gods. For this reason there is double concern in my mind, neither to hold in honour an abundance of money without men, nor to shine a light equal to strength without money. Our wealth indeed is blameless, but my fear is for the eye, for I believe the eye of the palace is the presence of the master. Therefore, these things thus in this way being so, be advisers in this matter to me, Persians, aged sureties, for all good counsel to me is in you. Be certain, queen of this earth, you need not twice indicate either word or deed, if our ability is willing to lead the way. For you call us counsellors who are well disposed towards you. I have had many constant nocturnal dreams, ever since my son, having assembled the army, left with the intention of ravaging the land of the Ionians. But never yet did I see such a clear vision as that of last night. I will tell you. There appeared to me 2 well-dressed women, one attired in Persian clothes, the other, on the contrary, in Dorian. And they were much more impressive in stature than the women of now, faultless in beauty, and sisters of the same family. One, having obtained the land by lot, inhabited Hellas. The other inhabited the land of the barbarians. Then, as I thought I saw, they had a dispute with one another, and my son, learning this, was trying to calm them, and he yoked them to his chariot, and he put collars on their necks. And one was docile in this gear, and kept her mouth governable in the reins. But the other struggled, and with her hands tore to pieces the harness of the chariot, and carried it away by force without the bit, and snapped the yoke in two. And my son fell, and his father Darius stood by, pitying him. But when he saw him, Xerxes ripped the garments on his body. And I tell you exactly what I saw in the night. When I arose and washed my hands in clear-flowing water, with sacrifice I approached the altar, wanting to make burnt offering to the apotropaic spirits, whose rites are such. But I saw an eagle in flight towards the hearth of Phoebus, and speechless with fear I stood, friends. Thereafter I beheld a hawk on its course, with wings rushing onward, plucking the eagle's head with its talons. But, being frightened, the eagle did nothing other than yield its body. These terrors were for me to see and for you to hear about. But rest assured, if my son does well, he will be a remarkable man. And if he does badly, he will not be accountable to the state. Safe, just the same as before, he will rule over this land. We do not wish, mother, to frighten you too much with words, or to encourage you unduly. But if you have seen something evil, turn to the gods and ask them to give protection, and to bring forth blessings for you and your children, and the state, and all that is dear. And then it is proper to make libations to the earth and to the dead. And kindly ask the following, that your husband Darius, whom you say you have seen at night, send good things to you and your son from below into the light of day, and that the reverse of this be held under the earth, powerless, in darkness. Consulting my heart on these matters, I kindly advise you. We judge of these portents that everything will turn out well for you. Truly, as the first judge of these dreams, you have confirmed by this speech that you are well disposed towards my son and my house. May benefits be the outcome. And all those rites, as you have suggested, we will perform for the gods and for the dear ones inside the earth, when we return to the palace. But this I would like to know, my friends. Where is Athens said to be located? Far away to the west, where Lord Helios declines. Did my son really desire to capture this city? Yes, for all of Hellas would then be subject to the king. Is there a multitude of men in their army? Yes, and this army has done many evils to the Medes. And what else besides? Have they enough wealth in their homes? They have a font of silver, a treasure chest in the earth. Is the bow-stretching arrow fit for their hands? Not at all. They prefer upright lances and shield-bearing armour. Who is their shepherd, and who lords over their army? Of no man are they called slaves or subjects. And so how could they withstand warlike invaders? As if they would destroy the vast and noble army of Darius. What you say is terrible for the parents of those gone to consider. But I think you soon will know the complete unerring truth. For this man running towards us is apparently Persian, and he brings clear news of state affairs, whether good or bad, to hear. Enter messenger. O cities of all the Asiatic earth, O Persian realm and rich harbour of wealth, at a single stroke much happiness has been destroyed. The flower of the Persians has fallen. Alas, it is evil to be the first to report evils. All the same, it is necessary to unfold the entire accident. Persians, the whole host of the barbarians, has perished. Grievous, grievous evils, new and cruel. Aye, aye, weep, Persians, hearing of this calamity. Thus all these things are come to pass, but I myself unexpectedly see the light of safe return. In truth, this life seems too long for old men to hear such unexpected misery. Truly, being there, and not just hearing the words of others, Persians, I can say what sort of evils transpired. Alas, In vain the many missiles commingled from the Asiatic earth went forth to the warlike land of Hellas.
Full of the dead bodies of the unluckily destroyed are the headlands of Salamis and every neighbouring region.
Alas, you say, the bodies of our friends, sea-tossed, drowned, dead, drifting, are borne on the ship planks.
Bows availed nothing, for the entire host perished, overpowered by charging ships.
Raise a doleful and most melancholy shout for the warlike Persians, as everything most disastrously has been consumed. Aye, aye, for the destroyed host.
O name of Salamis, most hateful to hear! Alas, how I moan, remembering Athens.
Abhorrent is Athens to her enemies. Remember how many Persian women she wantonly made bereft and unhusbanded.
I have kept silent for a long while, dismayed, shocked by the evils. But this event trumps the not telling nor asking what happened. All the same, it is necessary for mortals to bear the hostilities of the giving gods. So, unfolding the entire accident, speak, even if you groan at the evils. Who did not die? And who must we mourn among the chieftains? Who, selected for command, left his troops unmanned by dying?
Xerxes himself lives, and sees the light.
For my house you have indeed spoken great light, and made white day of black night.
But Artambares, master of myriad horses, is stricken beside the rough promontories of Cyllenia. And Didaches, captain of 1,000, at the stroke of a shaft, leapt with nimble step from his ship. And Tanagon, true-born chieftain of the Bactrians, haunts the sea-beaten island of Ajax. Lelios and Arsames, and a third, Argestes, whirling around the dove-breeding island, knocked against the rugged shore. And Arctius, who lived by the waters of the Egyptian Nile, Adeus, and a third, shield-bearing Pharnukos, fell from a single ship. Golden Matalos, leader of 10,000, hegemon of the black cavalry of thrice 10,000, dying, dyed his full bushy beard red, changing colour with a purple stain. And Magus Arabos and Artabes the Bactrian, foreigner in a harsh land, perished there. A mistress, and Amphistraeus, wielding the toilsome spear, and the good Ariomados, causing grief to Sardis, and Sisames the Mysian, and Tharabis, commander of 5 times 50 ships, Lernaean of birth, a handsome man, lies dying, wretched, none too fortunately. Cynesis, too, first in courage, commander of the Cilicians, the one man causing our enemies the most trouble, died gloriously. Of so many chieftains am I now reminded. I report only a few of the many evils.
Aye, aye, I hear the highest of evils, disgrace to the Persians, and shrill lamentations. But tell me, reviewing this again, how great was the number of Hellenic ships that they thought it prudent to join battle with the Persian army in their naval assaults? Of the number, be certain that the barbarians should have conquered with ships, for the Hellenes had a total number of 10 times 30 ships, and apart from these, a select fleet of 10. But Xerxes, as I know, had 1,000, and those excelling in speed were 2 and 700. This is my reckoning. Do not think we were lacking in this fight, but some demon destroyed the host, tipping the scales with unequal fortune. The gods preserve the city of divine Pallas. The city of Athens is still undespoiled? As long as there are men, her fortress is secure. What was the beginning of the encounter of ships? Speak. Who started the battle? The Hellenes? Or my son, exulting in his plethora of ships? There came, O mistress, appearing from somewhere, an avenging spirit of pure malevolence, or an evil demon. a Hellene, coming from the Athenian host, spoke to your son Xerxes as follows, that if the darkness of black night should come, the Hellenes would not stay, but leaping on the decks of their ships, some here, some there, they would save their lives by stealthy flight. But he straightway, when he heard, not grasping the ruse of the Hellene, nor the ill will of the gods, gave this order to all his admirals. When the sun stopped burning the earth with its rays, and darkness seized the temple of the sky, they should marshal a formation of ships in 3 rows to guard the ports and the sea-roaring straits, with other ships in a circle around the Isle of Ajax. And if the Hellenes should escape an evil destiny, finding stealthily some exit for their ships, it was agreed that each admiral would lose his head. He said this with a most cheerful heart, for he did not know the intention of the gods. And the admirals, not disorderly, but with obedient will, prepared dinner, and each sailor fitted well his oar to the thole. And when the light of the sun wasted away, and night approached, every master of an oar, and every ready chief, went on board ship. Line of long ships exhorted line of long ships, and they sailed as each was drawn up, and all through the night the commanders of ships kept the entire fleet sailing back and forth. And night withdrew, and by no means did the host of the Hellenes try sailing away stealthily in any direction. When rather brilliant day came, with her white horses to look upon the entire earth, first a loud shout from the Hellenes like a song rang out, and at once a high-pitched echo answered back from the island rocks. And there was fear among all the barbarians, confused in their purpose. For then the Hellenes chanted their holy paean, not as in flight, but as men rushing into battle with stout-hearted courage. And the trumpet with its blast inflamed them all. At once, with the stroke of the dashing oar, they drove the brackish deep from their path, and swiftly they all came into sight. The right wing first, well marshalled, led in good order, and then the whole fleet advanced, and at the same time there was heard a loud shout, O sons of the Hellenes, onward! Free the fatherland! Free also your children, your women, the temples of your paternal gods, and the tombs of your ancestors. Now is the struggle for all. Then truly from us the noise of the Persian tongue arose, and no longer was there time to delay. Straightway ship struck ship with bronze prow. A Hellenic ship began the charge, and it broke off the entire stern of a Phoenician ship, and each man drove his ship against another. At first the stream of the Persian host resisted, but when the multitude of ships in the narrow clustered together, and none could give aid to another, and same against same with bronze prows struck, they shattered the entire oar-wielding fleet, and the Hellenic ships, not senselessly, dashed us round about in a circle, and the hulls of our ships tipped over, and the sea, no longer to be seen, was full of wreckage and the murder of men. And the headlands and rocks were full of corpses, and every ship rode in disorderly flight, as many as were of the barbarian host. But their men, as if they were striking tuna or some haul of fish, with broken oars and fragments of shipwreck, kept slicing, and wailing combined with shrieks spread over the salty sea, until the eye of black night covered them. But the multitude of evils, not even if for 10 days I spoke, I could not finish telling you. For you may be certain that never in one day did so great a multitude of men die. Aye, aye, in truth a vast sea of evils has burst upon the Persians and the entire race of barbarians. Be assured now that this is not yet half the evil. So great a disaster came upon them as equals and twice counterbalances these sufferings. And what more hateful fortune than this could be? Speak again. What is this disaster which came upon the army, sinking it with a greater weight of evils? Such Persians as were in the prime of nature, most excellent in spirit, distinguished by noble birth, and always among the first in loyalty to the king himself, they have died shamefully by a most inglorious fate. Ah, I am made wretched by evil disaster, friends. By what fate do you say these men were destroyed? There is an island before the region of Salamis, small, with bad anchorage for ships, where dance-loving Pan haunts the seashore. There Xerxes sent these men, so that when the shipwrecked enemy fled to the island, they might slay the easily mastered army of the Hellenes, and save their comrades from the narrows of the sea. Poorly did he judge what was best. For when some god gave kudos in the battle of ships to the Hellenes, on that same day, girding their bodies in armour of bronze, they leapt from their ships and encircled the whole island, so that our men were at a loss as to which way to turn. For often they pelted us with rocks from their hands, and arrows falling from the bowstring destroyed us. At last, rousing themselves with one shout, they attacked and butchered the limbs of the unfortunate, until they utterly destroyed the life of all. And Xerxes howled, seeing the depth of evils, for he had a seat with a clear view of the entire army, a high hill near the open sea. And tearing his robes and wailing shrilly, he ordered his army on foot straightway to disperse in haphazard flight. This, along with the previous one, is the disaster for you to bemoan. Oh, hateful demon, how you lied when instructing the Persians! My son found sharp the vengeance of famous Athens, for they did not suffice the barbarians whom Marathon destroyed before. Intending to make retribution for them, my son has caused so great a plethora of calamities. But tell of the ships which have escaped fate. Where did you leave them? Can you signify clearly? The commanders of the ships which had left hurriedly took flight, following the disorderly wind, and the rest of the army in the land of Boeotia perished utterly, some by a spring-filled garden afflicted with thirst, and some of us, short of breath, came through and into the land of the Phocians, and Dorian country, and the Melian Gulf, where the Spercheius waters the plain with kindly drink, and from thence the plain of the Achaean soil and the cities of the Thessalians welcomed us, sorely lacking in food. There it was that most died, from thirst and from hunger, for both were present. And we came to the Magnesian land, and to the country of the Macedonians, to the ford of Axios, and the reed marsh of Bolbi, and Mount Pangaeum, Edonian territory. But on that same night some god called forth winter out of season, and froze the entire stream of holy Strymon. And one esteeming the gods not at all before, beseeched them now with prayers, bowing to earth and heaven. But when the army ceased its many god-callings, it crossed the crystallized stream at a ford, and each of us who set out before the beams of the god were scattered proved to be safe. But the bright disk of the sun, burning with its rays, dissolved the middle of the ford, heating it with flame, and men sank one after the other, and he indeed was fortunate who most quickly extinguished the breath of life. And those left over who happened to gain deliverance, driving on through to Thrace with great pain and toil, those who escaped, not many at all, arrived at the land of our hearth-altars. Thus may the city of the Persians mourn, yearning for the beloved youth of the land. These things are true, but I leave off speaking of many of the evils which a god hurled down upon the Persians. Exit Messenger. O laborious demon, with what heavy weight have you leapt with your feet upon the entire Persian race? Ah, I am suffering because of our vanquished army. O manifest vision of dreams at night, how very clearly did you reveal to me these evils! But you men very thoughtlessly interpreted them. However, since your speech decreed thus, I want first of all to pray to the gods. Then I will return bearing sacrificial cake for my house as a gift for the earth and the dead. I understand that it is for what has already happened, but in the future something better might occur, and it is necessary for you, given these circumstances, to gather faithful counsel from the faithful. And if my son should come here before me, console him and send him to the palace, lest he add another evil to evils. Exit Atossa.
Choral Ode 2. O King Zeus, since now you have destroyed the army of the vainglorious and populous Persians, you have concealed the cities of Susa and Ecbatana in dark grief, and many, rending their veils with delicate hands, moisten their bosoms with drenching tears, partaking of pain. And Persian women, wailing womanishly, longing to see their newly married husbands, forsaking the soft sheets of the wedding bed, the delight of luxurious youth, mourn with insatiable weeping. I too, much mourning, aptly extol the doom of those gone. For now the entire land of Asia, desolate, groans. Xerxes led on. Xerxes was ruined. Xerxes rashly risked everything, with flat-bottomed boats at sea. Why, when Darius was ever unharmed, Lord Archer of the citizens, dear leader of the Susans? With foot soldiers and sailors, linen-winged, dark-eyed, the ships advanced. The ships were destroyed. The ships with prows were annihilated at the hands of Ionians. And we hear the master himself barely escaped the fearful paths in the plains of Thrace. And those dying first, left by necessity around the Cyprian headlands, are swept away. Groan and mourn, cry heavy and heavenly distress. Strain the sadly wailing, clamorous, wretched voice. Torn by the whirlpool, they are mangled by the voiceless, by the children of the undefiled sea. And the deprived house mourns the man of the family, and childless fathers are demonized by distress, and old men bewailing everything perceive pain. And throughout the Asian land they no longer obey Persian laws, nor are they subject to tribute from arbitrary rule, nor falling to the earth are they filled with awe. For royal strength has come to naught. No longer is the tongue of mortal man kept under guard, for the people have been set loose to speak their freedom, so that the yoke of strength is unbound, and its fields stained with blood. The sea-surrounded island of Ajax holds the remains of the Persians. Episode 2. Atossa and Chorus. Enter Atossa.
Friends, he who has experienced misfortunes understands that whenever a wave of troubles comes upon mortal men, they are wont to fear everything. And whenever destiny flows well, they are wont to believe that destiny itself will always blow chance favourably. But in my eyes, already everything appears fearful and hostile to the gods, and in my ears shouts a din not pleasing. Such consternation of evils frightens the mind. Therefore I made this journey from the palace again, without my chariot and my former pomp, bringing to the father of my son propitiatory libations, which are soothing to the dead, and delicious white milk, from a sacred cow, and the distilment of flower workers, pure honey, with the watery drops of virgin spring, and from an agrarian mother this pure elixir, the refreshment of an ancient vine, and the fragrant fruit of the yellow olive, luxuriant in its ever-living leaves, and plaited flowers, children of all bearing earth. But, O friends, chant hymns for these libations to the dead, and invoke the spirit of Darius, and I will convey to the nether gods these offerings for the earth to drink. Royal lady, revered by the Persians, you send libations to the chambers below, and we with hymns will beseech the underground guides of the deceased to be gracious. Choral Ode 3. O holy chthonic divinities, Earth and Hermes and Lord of the dead, send forth the spirit from below into the light. For if he knows a remedy for these evils, he alone among mortals could say what it is. Do you perceive me, blessed godlike king, in barbaric obscurity proclaiming various despondent speeches? Or shall I shout out all wretched distress? From below, do you hear me? But you, earth, and the other hegemons of the chthonic realm, urge the proud spirit to come from his abode, the Susa-born god of the Persians. Send up him, the likes of whom the Persian earth never covered. Beloved man, beloved burial mound indeed, for beloved qualities lie concealed here. Idonius, Idonius, you who send forth, release the divine Lord Darius. For he did not destroy men in foolish wars, and he was called divine counsellor by the Persians. And divine counsellor he was, since he guided the army well. King, ancient king, come forth, approach. Rise to the top of the burial mound, lifting the saffron-dyed slipper of your foot, displaying the ornament of your royal tiara. Come forth, blameless Father Darius. That you may hear dreadful new sorrows, master of our master, appear. For a Stygian mist has descended. Already the youth of the nation has been completely destroyed. Come forth, blameless Father Darius. Episode 3. Chorus, Darius, and Atossa. Enter Ghost of Darius. I. O much lamented by your friends in death, what sin, dynastic lord, has caused this double disaster? All the three-tiered ships of this land have perished, and our ships no more.
O trusted of the most trusted, friends of my youth, old Persians, what suffering does the city suffer? The earth groans, mourns, and is wounded. Seeing my wife by my tomb, I am alarmed, and her libations I favourably accept. And you sing threnodies while standing at my grave, and wailing with psychagogic cries, you call me pitifully. But it is not easy to exit, above all because the gods beneath the earth are better at capturing than releasing. Nevertheless, since I have some influence over them, I have come. But make haste, so I am blameless with respect to time. What is this new evil weighing down on the Persians? I am ashamed to look at you, and I am ashamed to speak in your presence on account of my old dread of you. Since I have come from below, persuaded by your wailings, spare me a long and tedious story. Speaking concisely, tell and recite everything, setting aside your reverence for me.
I am afraid to gratify you, and I am afraid to speak in your presence, saying things difficult to tell friends.
Since an ancient fear has established itself in your mind, lawful, well-born old woman of my marriage bed, ceasing these weepings and wailings, speak to me clearly. Human calamities must befall mortals. Many evils from the sea and many from the land come to men as long as life stretches onward.
Oh, you who in fortunate destiny surpass the happiness of all men, since, as you looked upon the rays of the sun, being enviable in your happy life, you were like a god among the Persians, so now I also consider you, having died before seeing the depth of evils. The entire tale, Darius, you will hear in a short time. Persian affairs have been utterly ruined, to be blunt.
By what means? A thunderbolt of plague? Or sedition in the city?
Neither. The entire army was destroyed around Athens.
Which of my sons led the army there? Declare.
Impetuous Xerxes, depopulating the entire landscape of the continent.
On foot or by sea did the wretch make this foolish attempt?
Both. There was a dual front of double campaigns.
But how did the army make it so far on foot?
With machines he yoked the Hellespont so as to have passage.
He did that? He closed off the great Bosporus?
Yes, indeed. One of the spirits of wisdom must have helped.
Alas, a great demon took hold of him, so that he could not reason well.
As may be seen, the end result was a great evil.
And what happened to the men, that you groan over them?
The nautical force's ruin destroyed the ground force.
So the whole army perished entirely by the spear?
On account of this, the entire city of Susa groans at its lack of men.
Alas, for our trusted protection and the aid of our army!
And the host of the Bactrians is completely lost. Not even an old man remains.
O useless one, who destroyed the youth of our allies!
But they say Xerxes, alone and solitary, with not many men.
How did he meet his end? Or was there some deliverance?
Gladly he reached the bridge, yoking the two continents.
So he reached this continent safely? Is it true?
Yes, a verified report confirms this, and there is no doubt.
Alas, swiftly came the fulfillment of the oracles, and at my son Zeus hurled the divine conclusion. But I, for some reason, believed that the gods would accomplish these things after a long interval. And yet when someone by himself rushes headlong, a god also assists. Now it appears the source of evils has been found for all those near and dear. And my son, not understanding, did these things with youthful brashness. He hoped to restrain the holy Hellespont, the Bosporus, a divine current with fetters, as if it were a slave. And he refashioned the ford, and surrounding it with hammer-forged shackles, he made a great road for his great army. And, although a mortal, he thought, not with prudence, that he could master all the gods, even Poseidon. Was it not a disease of the mind that possessed my son? I fear lest the great treasure of my toil will fall prey to the soldiers of the victor.
Impetuous Xerxes learned these things by consorting with evil men, for they say that you achieved great wealth for your children with your spear, but that he, because of his unmanliness, plays the soldier at home, while doing nothing to augment paternal inheritance. Hearing such rebukes often from evil men, he planned this voyage and campaign against Hellas.
So, for them, the deed is accomplished. Profound, always to be remembered, such as never yet desolated this fallen city of Susa, from the time when Lord Zeus granted this honour. That one man, grasping the sceptre, would rule all of sheep-feeding Asia. Medos was the first hegemon of the army, and another, his son, completed the work, for intelligence directed his spirit. And third after him was Cyrus, fortunate man, who ruled and established peace for all his friends. He mastered the Lydians and the Phrygians, and he subdued all of Ionia with his strength. A god did not hate him, because he was born reasonable. Fourth, the son of Cyrus commanded the army. Mardos ruled fifth, a disgrace to the fatherland and to the ancient thrones. But him, by trickery, good Artaphernes killed in the palace, along with dear friends, for whom this was a duty. And sixth was Meraphis, and seventh, Artaphernes. And I too obtained the lot I desired, and I marched many times with a massive army. But so great a disaster never befell the city. Yet Xerxes, my son, being young, thinks young thoughts, and he does not remember my commands. Be very clear about this, my age-mates. None of us who held these powers before would appear to have caused such calamities. What then, Lord Darius, do you intend, pronouncing this sentence? How, after this, should we, the Persian people, best carry on? Do not wage war in the Hellenes' territory, even if the Median army is greater. The earth itself is their ally. What do you mean? In what way is it their ally? It slays with famine armies which are much larger. But we shall raise a well-equipped and elite force. Not even the troops now remaining in the lands of Hellas will experience the safety of return. How can you say this? Will not the whole army of the barbarians cross the Hellespont from Europe? Few of the many, if it is proper for one having seen what has just now happened to trust the oracles of the gods. For they come to pass in their entirety, or not at all. And if this is so, a select multitude of troops he leaves there, persuaded by empty hopes. They wait where Asopos waters the plain with its streams, dear fattener of the land of the Boeotians. There it remains for them to suffer the most sublime of evils, and he who bristically sees the penalty for his arrogance. Arriving at the land of Hellas, they were not ashamed to steal the wooden images of the gods, nor to burn the temples. Altars were destroyed, and the shrines of the divinities were completely overturned from their pedestals. Therefore, having acted badly, no less badly do they suffer. And these things are destined, for not yet is the fountain of evils quenched, but it still gushes forth. So great will be the mass of clotted gore on the land of Plataean soil, caused by the Dorian spearhead. Heaps of corpses, even to the third generation, will signify voicelessly to the eyes of men that it is not proper for a mortal being to pride himself excessively. For hubris, flowering, yields as its fruit a crop of ruin, whence it reaps a most lamentable harvest. Seeing such damages as these, remember Athens and Hellas, lest someone despising present fortune and desiring something else should squander great happiness. Zeus, indeed, is the punisher of overweening spirits, a heavy chastiser. Therefore, admonish with reasonable warnings this boy who claims he is of sound mind, to stop offending the gods with arrogant audacity. And you, O beloved old mother of Xerxes, going to the palace and taking whatever clothing is suitable. Meet your son. Because of the pain of his misfortunes, the tatters of his embroidered garments are completely torn to shreds. Soothe him cheerfully with words, for only by hearing you, as I know, will he bear up. And I will depart below, under the darkness of the earth. But you, old ambassadors, rejoice, and even in evil times may your souls delight every day, for wealth does not profit the dead at all. Exit Ghost of Darius. Truly, I am pained to hear the many miseries of the barbarians, both those present and those to come.
O baleful spirit, how great is the pain that attacks me, and especially this disaster stings to hear of my son's garments about his body, the dishonour which surrounds him. But I will go, and taking clothes from the palace, I will try to meet my son, for I will not forsake my nearest and dearest in evil times. Exit Atossa. Choral Ode 4. Ah, truly we enjoyed a good and noble political life, when the old, all-powerful, non-harmful, invincible king, godlike Darius, ruled the realm. First of all, we boasted glorious armies, and tower-like institutions administered everything, and returns from war brought back our men, untroubled, unsuffering, to happy homes. So many cities he captured, without crossing the ford of the Halys River, or even leaving the hearth, such as the Acheloan towns on the Strymonian Sea, near the Thracian settlements, and those outside the lake on dry land, surrounded by the tower, recognized him as their lord, as did Hellas around at the flat ford, and the inward Propontis, and the mouth of Pontus, and the islands below the salty headland, washed by the sea, situated near our land, such as Lesbos, and olive-planting Samos, Chios, and also Paros, Naxos, Mykonos, and Tenos, along with neighbouring Andros. And he strengthened the mid-sea islands, Lemnos, and the seat of Icarus, and Rhodes, and Cnidos, and the Cyprian cities, Paphos and Soloi, and Salamis, the metropolis now responsible for these groanings. And the wealthy and populous lands of the Hellenes in Ionian province he conquered with his will. For he had the unfailing strength of armed men and diverse allies. But now, indisputably, these things are overturned by the gods, as we suffer from wars, overpowered greatly by disasters at sea. Episode 4. Xerxes and Chorus. Enter Xerxes. Oh, wretched me, having met this loathsome, obscure fate, because a demon savage-mindedly trod upon the Persian race. What have I recklessly suffered? The strength of my limbs is dissolved as I look upon this generation of citizens. If only the doom of death, O Zeus, had buried me along with my ruined men. Alas, king, for the noble army and the great Persian ruling honour, and the order of men whom now a demon has cut down. The earth bewails the native youth slain by Xerxes, who glutted Hades with Persians. For it happens that many warriors, the flower of the nation, masters of the bow, an altogether thick myriad of men, have perished. Ay, our cherished strength. The land of Asia, king of the earth, dreadfully, has bent the knee. I, alas, have become lamentable, a useless evil to my race and fatherland.
As salutation for your homecoming, I will raise the ill-sounding shout, the ill-omened cry of a Marindinian mourner, a shriek with many tears. An utterly dismal and all lamentable discordant sound, for this demon once more has turned against me. I will indeed raise the plaintive dirge, honouring your sufferings and the heavy corpses at sea, begotten of the mourning city. I will scream with tearful wailing. For the Ionians swept them away, the Ionians and their superior naval force, ravaging the gloomy sea and the ill-fated coast. Aye, howl and make inquiry of everything. Where are the rest of our friends? Where are those who stood by you, such as Pharyndaches, Susa, Pelagon, Dotamas, Agdabatas, Psamis, and Susicanes, who hailed from Ecbatana? I left them for dead, fallen from a Tyrian ship on the shores of Salamis, dashed against its rugged headlands. Aye, howl! Where are Pharnukos and noble Ariomados? Where are Lord Sualces and Elias, born of a noble father, and Memphis, Tharibis, and Masistras, and Artembares, and Hystygmas? We ask you this again and again. Woe is me! Having seen ancient hateful Athens suffering together as one, alas, they lie gasping on dry land. And your trusty eye of the Persians, he who counts the myriads, Alpistos, son of Patanokos, and the son of Sesames, Megabates' son, Parthos, and great Oibares, did you really abandon them? Woe, dreadful! You speak of evils beyond evils for the illustrious Persians. Woe, indeed! You remind me of my excellent comrades. You arouse unforgettable, abhorrent evils with your speech. Within, my miserable heart howls. And truly we yearn for others as well. Xanthus, leader of the myriad Bardian men, and warlike Ancares, Diaxes and Arsaces, king of horsemen, Gegdodatus and Rithymnus, and Tolmus, insatiate of the spear-point. I am astounded, that around your wheel-drawn tent they do not follow behind. Gone are those who are leaders of the army. Gone, alas, and nameless. Alas! Woe! Demons have ordained unexpected evil, conspicuous, like the glance of Ata. We have been stricken by such chance as will exist through eons. We have been stricken, it is abundantly clear, by new misery. Having encountered, unluckily, Ionian shipmen, war-weary indeed is the race of Persians. How true it is! Wretched, I am stricken by the loss of so great an army. What possessions of the Persians have not been greatly destroyed? Do you see this remnant of my stole? I see. And this quiver? What is this you say has been saved? A treasury of arrows. Few remain from so many. We have been deprived of protectors. The Ionian people do not flee from the spear. They are courageous, and I have seen unexpected misery. You mean the defeated multitude in the ships? I tore my robe at the disastrous evil. Alas, and much worse than alas, for it is twice and thrice distressing, but a joy to our enemies, and our strength has been degraded. I am stripped of attendance by the maritime misfortunes of our friends. Mourn the calamity, and then return to your homes. Aye, misery. Shout now in response to me. An evil gift from the evil to the evil. Cry aloud, tuning your song to mine. Alas, heavy is this disaster. I, too, suffer greatly from this.
Lament, lament, and groan for my sake.
I weep, being mournful.
Shout now in response to me.
It is my duty, master.
Lift up your voice now with wailings.
Alas, black mournful blows will be mixed therewith.
Beat your breast and sing the Mysian dirge.
Grief, grief,
and tear for me the white hairs from your beard.
Tense, tense, very mournful.
And cry out sharply.
I will do this too.
And tear the flowing robe with your nails.
Grief, grief.
And pluck your hair and bewail the army.
Tense, tense, very mournful.
Moisten your eyes.
I am drenched.
Shout now in response to me.
Alas, alas.
Wailing, return to your homes.
Woe, woe to downtrodden Persia.
Woe indeed throughout the city.
Woe indeed. Yes, yes.
Groan, walking softly.
Woe, woe to downtrodden Persia.
Aye, aye, for those destroyed in the flat-bottomed triremes.
I will escort you with despondent lamentations. Exeunt Xerxes and Chorus.